7:00 p.m. on Monday, March 9th. Roll call, please.
Director Megan Gust. Here. Director Marsh.
Here.
Director Boyd. Here. Director Roddick.
Here.
Director Dye.
Present.
Chair Slater Carter.
Here. And now I'm looking for the agenda, which I didn't. Can I borrow this for a minute? Sure. While I look it up, we are moving into oral comment, and these are oral communications for items not on the agenda. I know I have one speaker slip here. Do we have other speakers in the house? Let's start with the Susie Perkins. See, I did get it wrong. Sorry. Susie Perkins, and then we will go to speakers on the Zoom. So Susie.
So do I just stand up here, or what do you want me to do?
Stand right here because we've got good speakers,
Okay.
good mics here. Just speak loud.
Okay, I can speak loud. So last year, the Harbor District proposed a parking lot which would allow 72-hour parking on the Burnham Strip. And so after significant public opposition, including 1,000+ signature petition and multiple public hearings, the Harbor District decided to construct the parking lot on the west side of Highway 1, preserving the open space characteristics of the Burnham Strip. Until we found out last week that the Harbor District held a special meeting in late February, during which it approved allowing the sewer authority Midcoastside to store equipment, vehicles, and trailers on the very same lot that had been that would have been used for the parking lot. Those of us in the community who are not on Nextdoor or who do not read Coastside Buzz may have never known that the Burnham Strip would now, instead of being be used as a construction staging area through mid-2027. Given the location of this parcel and the uproar of the parking lot, this lack of communication with the local neighborhood was deafening. First, I request that this item be agendized for SAM, including potential alternatives and timelines, which would allow the public notice and comment. Second, I point out that the construction, storage, and staging is not a zoned use of the Burnham Strip. Caltrans has already created a horrible eyesore across from Surfers Beach, one of our most popular tourist beaches. More construction equipment up the street without strict parameters could destroy the beauty of the El Granada Gateway District. I am very aware that this project is important not only to El Granada, but also to the surrounding communities. If there is no alternative location, I ask that SAM please limit the amount of time and the amount of equipment only to what is absolutely necessary to complete the project to minimize the negative impact on our neighborhood and community. Third, I respectfully request that any zoning variances obtained by SAM and/or the Harbor District be limited to this project only, making it clear that future use of this property must be bound by zoning currently in place. If we are not vigilant, allowing storage of construction equipment on this lot could create a precedent allowing the Harbor District to utilize this parcel for purposes not intended by the current zoning in perpetuity.
Thank you. Thank you. If anyone else wants to speak during public comment, please raise your hand on screen. I'm putting my glasses on so I can see. I don't want to miss anything. Do you see anybody's hands up?
No.
No.
Okay, let's move on from public comment then and move on to the consent agenda.
Move approval of items 3A and B.
Can I interject real quick? I wasn't here on January 26th. Normally I always abstain on any minutes, any meetings. I wasn't here, so I'm going to abstain from that item. I don't know if you want to pull it separately.
Two motions. There'll be two motions, one on 3A and one on 3B.
No, the 3A is in two parts. January 26th regular board meeting
okay.
and February 23rd. So it's 3A itself,
Okay.
part 1, part 2.
All right.
Sorry.
And I would just like to say thank you for making those changes. I just thought it reflected more clearly what our discussion was
You're
about.
welcome. Thanks for your feedback.
So
I understood you to make a motion for which part?
I can make a motion to approve item 3A. Subsection minutes of January 26th.
So February 23rd and then also 3B.
Yeah, the rest of us can vote on the 26th.
Yeah.
It might be easier. We can just note that Director Dagan-Gass abstains from, certain items. That might be simpler if we wish to do it that way.
Either one.
So the motion is,
Go back to the beginning, approve the A&B.
Sorry.
I move approval of items 3A and B, noting that Director Nagangas will abstain from
Which one?
January 26th.
from January 26th because he was absent.
Second.
Good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions?
We
No.
already, we already did that.
We have an abstention as part of the motion.
Yes.
So, motion carries. Let's move on to regular business.
Item 4A. Want me to read it out?
All right, please.
Item 4A, discuss proposed contract collection services budget for fiscal year 2026-27 and authorize the general manager to submit it to the member agencies for approval. So I want to start by expressing my gratitude to all of you for your dedication, particularly the finance committee members, Paul, Nancy, and Catherine, member agency GMs, Clemens, Chuck, and Dale, and of course, last but not the least, my fellow finance team members, George, Kelly, and Peter. Last year, we took the budget to the board for approval to send to member agency on March 24th. Today, we are 2 weeks early. Goes to show how efficient our finance team is. Today is not just about reviewing numbers. It is about our shared commitment to ensuring a sound financial foundation. This budget represents more than just projections. It is our primary policy document. It reflects our core priorities and translates our strategic goals into actions. So our focus for this period is on infrastructure with emphasis on sewer force main project in Montero, which needs to be completed by June 30th, 2027. So we will go through this in two parts, which are covered in 4A and 4B. We start off first with the collection services budget. I have a short presentation for that. I can share my screen. Not able to see. Share my screen first. Sorry. Here. And then go to.
The brilliant updates.
No.
Just when you think you got it all lined up.
Yep.
They changed something. And they only call it an update and you have no idea what it is.
Always.
Okay. So all agencies will have a minimum of 50% of their lines cleaned on an annual basis. This is similar to what we've been doing for the past couple of years. So once these 50% of the lines are cleaned up on an annual basis, then the rest of the time we get in touch with the member agencies and then focus on other things extra if something needs to be done for a particular member agency. The total costs were calculated, included services for line cleaning, lift station, routine maintenance, hotspot cleaning, emergency response, the underground service alert markings, reportings, and related meetings. These are the parameters based on which the costs were calculated. And this was discussed with the member agency managers about 5 years back. And we had entered into a consensus that this is the way the budget for the collections will be calculated. So the cost percent allocation this year is Half Moon Bay is 34.5%, GCSD is 28.5%, and Montero is about MWSD is 37%. Actually, last year MWSD was 38, GCSD was 28, and HMB was 34. But this time, this year, MWSD has reduced one of their lift stations for which maintenance is required in the seal cover area, and therefore it got reduced to 37%, and it bumped up 0.5% for the other two agencies.
Just to emphasize that those numbers are based on the
Based on,
size of the system and how much work there is to do in each area.
it is based on the lines and the number of lift stations that each agency has.
Right.
MWSD has a maximum number of lift stations, so.
Yeah.
There we go. Half Moon Bay has got 3 and GCSD has got 1. So all authorized positions, number 4 employees, they're included in the budget. And all applicable merit step increases at 1 step have been considered for this budget. 5% CPI to all non-personnel costs. And based on the 24-25 audited financials, collections had a deficit of about 47,687. This amount is allocated to the member agencies in the collection assessments. The personnel includes all 4 collections maintenance. There has been an increase in wages, about 79,527. This is based on the latest memorandum of understanding, which we had with Local 39, which was agreed upon the last year. Health benefits increase about 25,375. You are aware that every year health benefits increase, and SAM board has authorized paying 100% for health benefits to all employees. There's an increase in retirement contribution of about 14,300. Retiree medical and OPEB is about a slight increase of about 1,700, and miscellaneous benefit is about 7,979. So there's an overall 19% increase. There have been increase in insurance premiums about 12,462. This is based on the actual expense expected. Miscellaneous expense is minor, about 989. Travel and training costs have slightly gone up by about 1,435. Supplies gone up slightly by about 5,100. So there's total overall increase in collections budget by about 20%, which is about 150,000 approximately. So as mentioned earlier, there are 4 employees in the collections budget. There are 3 maintenance workers and 1 mechanic, and all of them are full-time. So this gives you, in a nutshell, the total budget of about 912,935. Wages contribute to the maximum, about 61%, which is 553,800. The next is the benefits, which is 30%. And then you have the insurance and supplies and utilities, which is a small number of 4, 3, and 2, respectively. So as indicated, wages and benefits is 19%. There's a change of about 128,000 from 695 to 824, and all other expenses increased by 30%, which is about 20,000. So this is the fee distribution, considering the 37% from MWSD, 34.5 from Half Moon Bay, and 28.5 from GCSD. So Half Moon Bay, there's a change of about 42%, GCSD about 42%, and Montero is about 36%. So there's an overall change by about 40%. This gives you a summary of the collection services starting from July of last year to the February of this year. Half Moon Bay, we've done cleaning of about 37,000 linear feet, and hotspots about 12,000. Manhole inspections about 214, and callouts have been about 37. GCSD, we've cleaned about 67,000, hotspots about 10,000. Manhole inspections are 424 and callouts are 7. Montara is about 48,000, hotspot 6,500, manhole inspections 250 and callouts are 14. Now, these are actually indicated in our monthly reports. Every month we indicate all these details.
So
It's just,
this is over a period of only 8 months.
yes, July to February.
Just so the people watching this later can understand how much work is involved in keeping these systems up to standards.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned July 25 to February
Yep.
2026 as of now. And the callouts could be regular as well as after office hours, which are OT and or on weekends or holidays. That's it. If there are any questions, I must stop here to answer any questions.
I'll just say we love the collections crew. They think they do a great job.
And they just are great customer service people.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Face to face with their great payers.
That's why that's one of the more important parts of the job.
Yep, they're a great face of Sam to the customer.
Yeah.
The only thing really driving the year-to-year change is the new MOU and the additional personnel costs. So other than that, it's pretty straightforward.
That's what I was gonna ask to explain, because a 40% increase sounds huge, right?
Yeah.
But explaining why in detail,
Yeah, detail.
could I think that's,
Exactly, wages and benefits.
if I go by percents.
Yep.
You know, oh, wait a minute, exactly, just running the contract.
Yeah, so we haven't added any new manpower, any extra manpower. It's the same staff of 4.
So we need to approve this to
I move approval of the,
Authorize the general manager to submit it to the member agencies for approval.
So
I move to authorize the general manager to submit it to the agencies for approval.
and the second,
I'll second.
thank you, Scott.
I do have one question. I didn't see anything in the budget about saving up for equipment replacement, but this is a pretty heavy equipment dependent function. Is that, what's our thinking on that?
We brought it up to the member agency managers. I think we brought it up last year. We didn't bring it up this year. We brought it up, but they deferred it. They said we still have about 3 or 4 years still on the big truck. So they said they'll take it up at the later stage. So we didn't bring it up this year, honestly.
Yeah.
But we brought it up last year.
Personally, I would like to see us starting to plan, which might include save. So we don't try to write one big check at the end.
Correct. So we brought up 2 options last year, saying that either you guys can keep it as reserves at the member agencies or give it to Sam Collections where we can keep it aside. But
What does a truck like that run?
truck would be 700 plus.
Oh, God, no. Well, that was 750,000 when we bought it 10 years ago. So it'd be like 1.4 now.
Okay.
And we actually talked about this today. We don't have a place to keep these vehicles. They just turn to rust. Which is
That's a
exactly
bad
what's
for truck?
happening with the existing.
Exactly.
Any truck.
Any
I
truck.
remember when I got on this board and there was some discussion about the pickup truck.
Yeah.
And Tim very kindly took me out to look at it and I just went, oh my God, our public image is just embarrassing. And the safety for our drivers and crew was even worse.
Yeah. Couple of times we've had mechanical malfunctions where luckily no one was injured, but
Is there room for a Butler building?
on property out front would be a real good spot if we could use part of that.
You've been building the shade structure. Is that for the,
No, that shade structure with the chemicals.
oh, thank you.
I would suggest maybe we have an operations committee or somebody look at this. My experience, having had a car rust apart in my front yard in a year. Is if you can stop the wind and the salt. You can make a lot of progress. Doesn't even need to be necessarily insulated, so a Butler building is a good idea, and maybe we should get a survey. Well, I'm off topic now, so we can just make it maybe an operations committee agenda.
The general managers thought it's 3 to 4 years out.
Yeah.
to replace
To
it.
replace it.
Yeah, I'm just very focused on, we have one job for this year's
Yeah.
budget.
Yeah, no,
This is not the year.
thank you.
I think you're planning ahead, you were
Yeah, I'm not
planning ahead.
thinking
for
out,
it.
yeah, I just have, I don't wanna be 3-4 years down the line going, wait, I have to write a check.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
yeah,
Maybe 27, 28.
Maybe 27, 28. The focus is now on the big project.
Well, the more you save in small amounts, the less big amounts you
Sure.
have to.
But they
Pony up.
don't hold it. They have their emergency reserve and no further reserve, so we can hold it.
You can,
We can hold it in reserve for future.
maybe the way to do it
that's
is to,
designated reserve if we wanted to put one in, but we can hold it individually or together, so it's up to us.
It's coming, yeah. I know
I,
it's coming.
Keishan, I would suggest that for future reference, maybe you could put huge cost items, because to me, $1.4 million is a huge cost. Items coming up, districts, please save for these.
I think it's something to, we'll need to revisit the CIP. And so I think that's a good item to put on the 5-year CIP.
Right.
That level of expense.
Okay, moving right along to the next item then.
That will be the discuss proposed general budget for,
Did we vote on that?
yeah. We voted. I thought.
We.
Well,
We
You
voted
didn't, you didn't take a roll call.
We didn't do-
Yeah.
let's do a roll call.
Yeah. Do it. Director Megan, yes.
Yes.
Director Marsh.
Yes.
Director Boyd.
Yes.
Director Rada.
Yes.
Director Dye.
Aye.
Chair Slater Carter.
Yes.
Now we can move on to the next item. Which is discuss proposed general budget for fiscal year 26-27 and authorize the general manager to submit it to the member agencies for approval. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so just to give you a glimpse of the entire budget process, we start this budget process in December, January, early part of January typically. And then our finance team discusses the budget. And once we agree upon it, then we take it to the member agencies for discussion. Once the member agency managers have had time to review it, make their comments, we make the changes, whatever they suggest. Then we bring it to the finance committee. And after the finance committee okays it, then we bring it to the board to authorize the general manager to submit it to the member agencies for approval. That's the stage where we are right now. And once the board gives the general manager the authorization to submit it, it is then taken up at the respective districts or the council, the board or the council for approval. And once it's approved at their level, it's brought back again to the SAM board for final adoption. So that's the entire process. And we are at this stage where we are seeking approval from the board to submit it to the member agencies. So this is the operations budget or the general budget, which we call it. All authorized positions are included in the budget. There has been no increase in manpower, nor decrease in manpower. All merit step increases are at 1 step. 5% CPI has been included. And with the adoption of the MOU, as mentioned earlier, with the local 39, personnel costs have been budgeted based on expectations for the next year. Infrastructure budget has been increased by 605,000 from last year's budget amount. I will explain to you in detail about what it covers. Wages and benefits have gone up by 9%, about 263,000. Legal engineering professional services have gone up by 2%. All other expenses by about 27%. We'll get more details of it in the future slides. Operating budget less infrastructure has gone up by about 14%. Infrastructure has gone up by about 17%. So the total general budget has increased by 15%. So expenses by category, you have wages and benefits, which is the infrastructure is the largest amount, which is 37%. Then comes the wages and benefits, which is 28%. All other expenses, which is basically utilities, insurance, chemicals, permits, equipment, and other items, which is 24%. Legal and professional services is 11%. So by categories again, which does not include infrastructure, wages and benefits, 44%, legal and professional 18%, and all other expenses 38%. So this is the staffing information, which is, we have 13 covered under general budget. So the total staffing, including the collections, is 17, which includes the general manager, who's on a contract basis. And the others, employees in the general, we have 13 employees in general budget, 6 employees scheduled for step increase, 6 employees currently at top step. Vacant positions budgeted at mid step, but right now there are no vacant positions. So the key changes is in the personnel costs, the net increase is due to wage increases, COLA and merit. Increased health and retirement costs, which has been mentioned earlier, that health costs have gone up and the wages have gone up. So the total cost is about 263,338. Engineering services treatment based on year-to-date actuals. What we typically do is we check out the expenses until December, end December, and extrapolate that to June and see how much would we need to budget for. So that's what we mean by year-to-date actuals. Professional services based on anticipated needs for 26-27 gone up by about 56,000. Insurance premiums, this is based on current year actuals because we don't get our insurance premium rates until June, July, by which time the budget would be adopted. Then we have increased PG&E costs, which is about 33,000. Equipment, which is non-project capital related expenses, 404,259. All of the operating expenses, which is about 95,659. And the sum of operating general budget key changes is about 877,859. Now, this is a new thing which we've added in the equipment, which is the non-project capital related expenses. So far, until this fiscal year, we've not budgeted separately for non-project capital expenses. At the end of the year, we capitalize items which are more than $5,000 and capitalize it. And these are for several projects which are not covered in the infrastructure expenses. So at the end of the year, typically we're incurring about 450 to 500,000, and we typically grab it from infrastructure or other areas, mostly from the infrastructure areas. So this time we wanted to set aside close to 400,000, and that is a part of treatment equipment in the treatment section of the budget. Okay. So we have the major vendors. No surprise, these are our major vendors even last year. Calcon, General Counsel, Boucher Law Employment Council, RV Accounting and Advisory, who help us in the audit and budget. Precision IT Consulting, who help us with our IT maintenance. 4A Generator Services for equipment maintenance. Peninsula Pump and Equipment for equipment maintenance. Ally Bridge Energy Solutions, who help us with putting together RFP for solar projects. Then Alpha Analytical Labs, who help us out with our testing to comply with our regional water quality control board requirements. So the CalPERS rates, 25-26 for classic members is 13.38 and 26-27 is 13.36. The employee rate is remains same. The employer rate has slightly come down. Unfunded liability for classic has gone up from 359 to 401. This is estimated 26-27 estimate, because we typically get this payment requirement from CalPERS only in the month of June or for the fiscal year starting July. This is just an estimate. Now, the assessments for all the 3 agencies are typically based on the calendar year 2025 flow. These flow requirements, these flows were brought to the board in the last board meeting, which was accepted by the board, and Half Moon Bay is 61.18%, GCSD is 18.21, and Montero is about 20.61. So with this, the assessments changes is about 17% for Half Moon Bay. GCSD is about 11% and NWSD is about 13%. Then overall increase by about 15%. So this is the historical flow allocations. You see in 2024, Half Moon Bay was 60.24, it's gone up to 61.18. GCSD has come down from 18.84 to 18.21. And Montana has slightly come down from 20.92 to 20.61. So the division budgets by fiscal year is administration has gone up by 3%. Treatment has gone up by 18%. That is what I had indicated earlier, that in the treatment we have added about 400,000 for equipment, and that's why the treatment budget has gone up. Environmental compliance gone up by about 11%. Total operating budget is about 14%. Infrastructure has gone up by 17% because we need to complete the sewer force main in Montana by June 2027, which is in the upcoming fiscal year 26-27. So a large chunk of it has been put for this particular project. Besides that, there are 3 projects which have spilled over from the previous years. One is the effluent pump install, which was approved by the board earlier, so that we can go ahead with the contractor at the old rates, and that is going to take place in the upcoming fiscal year. And besides that, we have got 2 projects. One is at the Portola pump station to install one pump, and at Montana pump station to install 1 pump. So these are spillover projects from the earlier years, but require funding for installation.
In line with
Yes.
the finance committee agreement that we will specifically budget for those, so.
Yeah, the finance committee had given their recommendations and we've gone by that. So me and my staff are here to answer any questions.
Let's start with Paul. Just move around the table.
Could you give some examples about, you go again by percents, you got 3,000% increase, the equipment line item. And you mentioned there were non-infrastructure projects. Could you give some examples of, why we put 404,000 in there?
Oh, typically, yeah, I can give you a list of projects.
Just a few.
By memory,
Yeah.
if there's some motor or pumps breakdown in a particular section, like say number 1 water, two water, we have VFDs which need to be repaired. So that incurs expenses which we haven't planned for. So that would be a solid chunk, like say $10,000, but that goes into that. So anything of that sort which comes up, motor breakdown or motor winding to be done, so you don't have to replace the motor entirely. If it's not an entire project, and if it cannot wait until the next year, then typically it needs replacement. If there's something which can wait, if you have backup, say we have 3 pumps and one of them breaks down, then we still have 2 more pumps available, then we typically take it to the next fiscal year for inclusion in infrastructure, if it's a very costly item.
Equipment just happened to be the line item that's being used right now.
Yeah, these are the items which are being used right now, which could, need repair or need to be replaced.
Are things like the diffusers that we talked about, or the electrical panel,
Yeah.
that big project that comes out of that kind of money?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Diffusers-
instead of out of infrastructure, it'll come out of that line, so infrastructure will be more clean.
Correct. That's a very good example. Diffusers, we typically do the diffuser inspection, the outfall inspection. So the divers go in there, check it out, what needs to be replaced, and they come back and give us. Certain of them are long lead items, so we need to place the order immediately, so that when they come next year, they come and install it. So other things will be. And as Director Marsh brought up, electrical panel, any replacements to be done, we bring it up because they get capitalized at the end of the year, so they would go into that account.
How are we paying for them now? I mean, it's kind of, we're all throwing them into this line item, just trying to make it clear. Maybe I'm confusing it more.
No,
by
Like
asking.
I said earlier,
Yeah.
in the past few years, we've been taking it from infrastructure.
Right.
So if you see the budget at the end of the year, the infrastructure, there would be a bump in the infrastructure actuals. But in actual, we wouldn't have completed all the infrastructure projects, but there would be a bump in the expenses. Those are all because we've taken it from these categories.
So we're trying to make it cleaner to
Correct.
actually to
Yes.
reflect.
Yeah.
Really what's going on.
Yeah, we're trying to streamline it so that it comes only from that category and not taken away from this
Yeah.
infrastructure portion for which we have budgeted.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, this is primarily based on recommendations from the finance committee. And then we discussed it with the member agency managers and they were all okay for it.
Thank you.
I just had a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
So it sounds to me like you're saying, like you're distinguishing between capital projects, infrastructure capital projects, and repair, replacement, and maintenance.
Yeah, which get
Treating
capitalized.
them separately rather than lumping them together. You're distinguishing them.
Yeah, which get capitalized at the end of the year.
So the infrastructure
point.
budget will have its line items. And it will be clean for those line items. Without having other expenses coming out of that money.
Right, so we're trying to keep.
I see.
We're keeping the infrastructure separate.
Correct.
And these items aren't. Budgeted infrastructure items, but we were actually taking money previously
From
from
infrastructure.
infrastructure. And it was, we were saying we should keep it somewhere else, which right now it's in this equipment line item. I don't know if that's where it's gonna stay, and if we're gonna look at making maybe a separate line from, I don't know. But
We'll see how it goes this year. We've focused it more on equipment maintenance because that's where most of the
a lot of it,
chunk items coming from. So that's why we decided to put in a treatment and equipment maintenance.
does that help a little bit there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a struggle we've had for years and
Yes.
years and years and years and years, right? So. This is one way to address it.
Nancy was good.
It sounds like a lot of this is items
I
that
thought
we
you
would have
spoke about-
expensed,
No,
but
she
things
hasn't.
have gotten so expensive that a lot of them cross that $5,000 threshold. We're like, oh, well, now we want to capitalize it, so we want to find a way to recognize that.
And
But-
provide
Good.
funding for it, specific funding for those things which are bound to come up.
Yeah, and
Nancy,
for,
has your point been made?
yeah, and for clarity's sake, before you
Go
start,
ahead.
and for clarity's sake, in the past, although it was not a part of the infrastructure, like I said, it would get capitalized at the end of the year. Anything and everything which is beyond the general manager's authorization, we would bring it to the board for approval. It was not like it was being without the knowledge of the board, but it was. There's only that at the end of the year, it would get capitalized. So,
I have actually some questions and then I kind of have a big proposal. So I thought maybe if we just cover the questions, so we don't derail the questions with a proposal, but my questions were, we talked about specifically budgeting for those older projects that still need money beyond their initial budget to get completed. So we have 3 of them in the budget. There are still 5, and maybe some of them are very small, that are on the 21 or 22 list that are still not included on having funding this year. And so are we holding them? Some of them are like the cybersecurity. I think maybe you've done everything that you need to do.
yes.
Or are they so small that you don't think you need to budget for them? I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that we really budget for the money that we really need.
Good. A lot of them are small, like the gratings, hatches.
Yeah.
A couple of them. So we've already got the hatches, so if it needs to be installed, we can always get it done. So
Just
couple of them
under
are small.
normal expense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
My only other quibble, and sorry, Jeremy, but I brought this up in finance is I think legal, although you've reduced the legal budget by 35,000, you're still budgeting 27,000 more than we spent last year. And, compared to, what GCSD spends on legal, it still seems high. So I'm not going to quibble about putting the budget in, but I think that may be a place that I hope we come in under budget.
yeah, we reduced a lot on the special counsel because special counsel was dedicated to the MOU in the previous fiscal year.
Yeah.
So now that the MOU is all finalized, we reduced a lot there. Plus, We also had a lot of employee turnover. We had to recruit.
Negotiations. and stuff.
Negotiation. We don't have a HR department, so we use a special counsel for all the HR problems, including recruitment or any other HR issue. So
that's mixed in with legal.
yeah,
Yeah.
that comes with me.
Those are my only questions. I'll save my idea for when all the questions are out.
Okay, any more questions?
Not for me.
No, okay, what's your idea?
Well, this, on behalf of GCSD, we talked about in the finance committee, we had a discussion about for the infrastructure and specifically for the Montero Force Main. Do we budget for this in the budget, 3.5 million, which is what was on the 5-year CIP? But we surely anticipate that there will be a mid-year budget adjustment that could be significant. And I think Hishin at the GM's meeting, where the finance committee came out, we had a discussion about, do we try to budget as much as we can anticipate upfront, or do we budget 3.5 million and then do the rest when we really know the true number at mid-year? And the finance committee agreed, let's just go with the 3.5 million because we don't have a firm handle on the number. And if we don't agree the number from the firm doing design build and have to go out to RFP, then that could be months away. We had a discussion, and just reflecting on it, I think Kishan at the GM's meeting, you thought that the total number for this fiscal year could be as much as 12.5 million. I think in the finance committee, it was 12 or 13 million. So as we discussed it, if we really think that we have a large expenditure and we have at least a reasonable experienced estimate about what that should be, that it just seems more reasonable in terms of communication to ratepayers and in terms of planning in our own budgets to put that up front. And instead of 3.5 million, use 12.5 million, which would bring the overall infrastructure budget up to 13.1 with the other things. It just makes for more realistic planning and for communications to the ratepayers and community of stakeholders. Seems more kind of upfront with the information. And Barbara, you can add on.
I think that's what we talked about today.
I
that
think it would make a good future agenda item. It's certainly not on the agenda, this.
Well, it's about this budget, about making a budget.
I understand the
change.
ideas, but you're talking about changes to the way it's presented. And we've got a presented budget right now.
Yes.
So my concern is that it seems that this is a discussion that could take quite a while. And I think we need to bring it back to our boards as well. So I'd like to deal with this little box of the budget and talk about changes.
Are you just talking about budgeting more conservatively?
Yes, and
Much more.
doing it at the first of the year rather than anticipating a large mid-course correction later in the year. I think it's fair to say, because we talked about it with RGM, that the agencies should all maybe have that conversation rather than try to make a change tonight. But it does mean, I think, that we wouldn't approve this as presented tonight. We would go have those discussions and then come back about whether to adjust it.
we also discussed that it might not be 12 equal installments.
Just
It might be
depending on the
separated from the rest of the budget for that. And
potentially.
we could talk more about that.
That is a big discussion. We thought that should be in the finance committee and to come back with a proposal, but it's really, do we have a big bucket up front or do we have the smaller bucket up front?
Do we tell the community that this is what it's going to cost next
Yeah.
year?
I actually like your idea, frankly. We know with the current climate in the Middle East that costs could go way up very fast. So we still have to have discussions with our individual member agencies on the budget. I like the idea of budgeting up front.
I wasn't sure if we could approve this with that modification now. And of course, it's going to go to all the agencies for conversations, or as Catherine said, not approve it but come back later with some more input.
Not approve the change, approve the budget.
I don't think we can approve the budget when we're proposing that significant a change to what's here. We're proposing that
I
we
think
put it in
the
this
time to
budget.
do it is
I'm
in
curious.
preparation for next year. Keishan, what were you saying?
Yeah, so the amount of money that has been put in for infrastructure for the sewer force main in Montana is based on the adopted 5-year budget, which was adopted by the board in 2024. The board said that we should set aside 3.65 million in 26, 26, 27. Yeah, let me just finish.
Understood.
Yeah, let me just finish. But the guaranteed maximum price is going to be given by the contractor only in the month of May or June. So we don't know. It could be 13, it could be 14 million. It's just because they're still not completed the 60% design also. Plus, we have construction services. We're going out for an RFP for that in the month of March or April. But typically, construction services for such a project would be 10% of the cost, say about $1 million. So it could be 14 million, it could be 15. Since we do not know exactly how much it is, when we discussed with the member agency managers, we said, let's go by the adopted budget. And then once we know the exact figure, we go for a mid-year budget adjustment in October, in November or December.
Yeah.
Because right now, there's no point in just increasing the infrastructure contribution without knowing what our price is.
I would agree with that.
So
Yeah,
that was
that's
what was suggested.
what we had, that was our decision. So this is a bit of a shock for
Well,
me. Scott,
so I just want to, sounds like you've got that general agreement amongst the managers that we know it's coming. Let's wait until we have the number, and then we know we'll have to go back through the process again to take the real number into account.
Yes. Yeah, we have an agreement. That's what we told them specifically, that there will be a mid-year budget adjustment because this is all based on 10.16 million of the CIP. The project cost.
I'd like to see us, and we're doing it right now, being really clear with the public.
Right.
It's going to be, I don't know, I think with the war going on.
Yeah.
I don't think 14 is where it's going to be.
I don't think so
I
either.
think it's
Because cost of materials is,
Yes.
it only does one thing in wartime, and we've seen a few of these in our time.
Everything uses petroleum-based products and special minerals.
And Strait of Hormuz has been closed,
Yeah.
and we're seeing crude up over 110,
Over
it fell
120.
today.
120. Okay, well, I mean, it's just an insane number at this point. Remember when we used to wonder if it was going to go to 53? Well,
60 seems like a lot.
yeah. So I like that we're talking about this. I think
Yeah.
I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that the GMs had a discussion and the finance committee had a discussion just on reflection, and we had a discussion. We wanted to share that thought
Sure.
and that idea. We know it's coming. We don't want to mislead the public. We actually, we think, I hope it's not 20. We thought at 13, we're okay, and may not need to do a 218. But we thought if we know that we're going to have something significantly more than 3.5, it just seemed to us to be more straightforward with the public to put something in the budget more than 3.5. We know we're going to spend it, but I take the point that we don't really know whether it's going to be 10, 13, 15, or 20.
And there's another solution is in your newsletter to your public, you can discuss this. We have a newsletter that goes out and
Well, we discussed it at our last public meeting, so
Yeah.
we started that conversation with the
well,
public.
ours goes into every house.
And we aren't really talking about mid-year. We're hopefully talking summertime.
That we
To know
would know
enough.
that-
Summer when we know the
Yeah,
number.
May, June, is when you would know the numbers.
Right,
Oh.
so really, in many ways, we might even know before it's time to start the next year. So I'm just saying that we're not really talking about mid-year, we're talking about number,
very
once we
early
get the
in
number.
year.
Like, we don't have to adopt the budget until just before July.
Right.
So there's actual time to,
Yeah.
adjust the budget before adoption too.
It just may mean agencies having special meetings to do kind of late approvals so that
Right.
Sam could approve it late in June.
But can the member agencies have reserve built into it themselves.
We
Instead of-
definitely should
instead of
reserve.
plan- Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys can do that, right?
Yeah.
Instead of bumping up the infrastructure budget
Yeah.
right now.
I mean, the JPA only requires that the member agencies have enough in their individual budgets to cover the costs we anticipate. So if we say at this point, we anticipate, it's going to be 10 to 15 million, we should be planning that in our budget so that we have the reserve to cover it. It doesn't say we have to pay it on any particular schedule. It just says we have to be able to cover it and put that in our plans.
Well, and that makes all the sense in the world for each agency to approach it that way. I remember when this discussion was happening, not all that long ago, maybe 10 years ago, and I said, we've had a problem with the general manager spending things as he wanted. Let's just, each of the agencies, put your money away. And you can do your 218 notices based on what you think the budgets are going to be. And then you've got the money at hand. And Sam doesn't need to manage your money.
Yeah, but keep in mind that if when the contractor comes back with a price in May or June with the guaranteed maximum price, the board has an option not to move forward with that contractor. It's in the
Right.
clause.
Then it's much later.
If it is.
And then
if
it could be
it's much
months
quicker.
later before we.
Yeah.
Could be,
before we
but I'm
know.
saying, if they have some astronomical costs, 20 million or 25 million, I'm just throwing numbers,
Yeah,
which may not be within our capacity to do that. We can always go for a different contract at that point of time. Go out for a bid.
yeah.
You would have the
Even if we
complete
go
design
for a
document.
bid, we don't know what the number's gonna
Yeah,
be.
we don't know, but I'm just saying. You never know.
You're right.
And there are costs going out for a bid.
Yeah,
Also.
definitely costs.
Significant
Costs to wait.
And we have a consent decree, we have to do it by June 2027.
So it's important to be transparent with your ratepayers.
Yes,
Those of us that are, we're going to do rate studies, trying to predict what's happening in May, let alone next week. Who knows what this number's going to be.
Yeah.
It's kind of,
We know it's not gonna be 3.5 million. I
No.
think we're quite confident it's not.
Right.
but I think if we're open and transparent and just letting our ratepayers know, hey,
Yep.
and it's during a war. I mean, it's.
That's, yeah, you have to frame it that way, I think, yeah.
Well, who could have anticipated this 3 weeks ago?
What's next?
Oh, don't even go there. Well, I just we wanted to
So we
open up
need
the
to-
discussion.
I
so.
think it's a good discussion to start both at the finance committee and bring it to the board. And, but I'd like to see this budget passed and moved on to the member agencies, so we have the time to discuss it too.
Well, we're not passing the budget, we're just directing them to.
We're
Yeah.
passing it on to the.
We're just directing him to, yeah, so you're right, we're not passing the budget, we're just directing it, and those should be good discussions. We
Yeah.
just wanted them to be really well-informed discussions. And we may end up, as you say, if we accept that cost in May or June, we may actually be adjusting the budget, not mid-year, but first of the year.
I will say one of the things that allows Montera to save money is we do a long-term 218 with a large interest rate that will last over 5 years. So we can make interest rates within that framework and not have to do a 218 each time.
Yeah, we do 5 years.
Yeah,
And
that's always fun to explain to folks who go, that's gigantic, and like, yeah, that gives us room. We won't do, look at our past performance, we chip away at it, we're not, do it all at once, but every time we do it, we get to
newcomers kind
explain
of
it every 5 years. But,
Yes.
and then we've got to actually perform, so we don't wind up misleading them. But it's always like like Nancy, you were saying about, let's hope that we don't get pushed so hard that we got to go back and do another 218 just for this project.
Right.
we don't want that.
But, petroleum-based products and all the normal processing and all the other stuff.
So do we have a motion to direct this to the member agency?
So move.
Second,
Thank you. Thank you, Scott. All those in favor, roll call vote, please.
Director Megangus.
Yes.
Director March.
Yes,
Director Boyd.
yes.
Director Radek.
Yes.
Director Dye.
Yes.
Chair Slater Carter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just a
Moving on.
quick clarification from the board. So when it goes back to the member agencies are going to confer with each other and present revised numbers for the board to consider prior to July 1st?
Not confer with each other, but confer within their agencies.
As to what,
I
how
mean,
they
the
would like it.
the
managed.
agencies always have the opportunity to come back and say, I don't approve, I want this change. But
We
Yeah,
think
that's
that's
true.
too expensive or,
but not conferring
or
with
let's
each other.
move the money
Yeah.
over here, yeah.
We confer
Okay.
with each other here.
What should our budget be, Barbara?
We
We
can-
confer with each other in the finance committee.
You think we should pay for this thing all at once?
The budget as presented will be sent to the member agencies for discussion.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You're good. Okay.
Moving along to 4C, Stephen.
Yes, discussion of real estate issues pertaining to the Sam plant site. So Jeremy and I put together this document, basically, while reviewing the possible solar and alternative energy options, we did a little bit of due diligence on the real estate, and we found out that the Sam plant has an easement with Half Moon Bay Sanitary District, which at some point merged into the city of Half Moon Bay. And the easement agreement was in 1982, and that has expired as of now. The duration of the easement was 40 years. So as of 2022, the easement had expired. So we've attached all the relevant information. And Jeremy, would you like to add something more?
Sure, Kitchen. I think you covered it. It's just as part of we were trying to see what kind of power purchase agreement we could do, and Kitchen had been working with some of the consultants to see what kind of project might be available. And of course, there was originally a different site that had some, as the board knows, had some environmental constraints. So we started looking a lot more closely at the plant site. And when you're going to enter into a long-term contract with a vendor who's going to be providing energy and it's a complex transaction doing a power purchase agreement. We had to make sure that, Sam, what was Sam's rights in the property. And so as part of that process, we pulled a preliminary title report, which is in the packet, and learned that, okay, it's the Half Moon Bay Sanitary District. What's that? Okay, it doesn't exist anymore. So what else is there? And so we actually found the agreement as part of the preliminary title report that, when we went through it, it's like, okay, this is great. And then got to the end, it's like, okay, 40 years from 1982. So it is expired. It's unusual to have a easement like this for a term of years to begin with. I think, I'm speculating here because there's not a whole lot of contemporaneous documents, unfortunately. But, it seems like, the thought was at the end of 40 years, maybe Sam wouldn't need it. Maybe you guys would replace something else. And so I think the city was just, or the sanitary district, if you will, and the city, I believe, is the successor to the sanitary district. We're just kind of keeping their options open. But now, if we want to go forward with any kind of a power purchase agreement, and Kishan has relayed to me, and he can provide additional detail to the board, that we really are, if we're going to try to do a project, if we're going to try to do an alternative energy or solar, battery storage, whatever, there is a very limited window of opportunity to be able to take advantage of the credits that are going to make it economically viable. And so that's why we brought this up now. We're like, okay, it's kind of now or never. And unfortunately, one of the things that to enter into a long-term agreement with the vendor, we really have to have this issue squared away, because they're going to want to make sure that they have the ability to keep their things at the plant for the entire term of the power purchase agreement. So anyway, that's why we're here. And we wanted to just get some direction from the board as to where we go from here.
Yeah, it's not only that project, it's also the electrical relocation project, the building coming up at the Sam plant. Even for that, we would need the easement because it's going to be a new building on Sam property, and we would need to file all the environmental details with the city. So these are a few things which are coming up.
And it's a bit of an unusual situation that by the JPA agreement and actually the 1982 agreement, Sam owns the plant. And the city owns the dirt. And for those of you who've done some real estate work, you see that kind of a construct. It's not unusual in the idea of a ground lease, where essentially the building itself is owned by the developer, and the dirt remains, owned by whoever the property owner is. So our situation is a little bit different, but the problem we have to solve is not unlike that. So, my opinion, after speaking with one of my colleagues who specializes in leases, easements, and other things that are less than full fee ownership, was this you have a basis for continuing in place because the purpose of the easement is still it still has not been completed, and so basically there's an implied holdover, but we need to come up with a resolution that allows us that solves the ability to be able to do projects going forward in a way that the board and the city and everybody can feel comfortable with.
I was just going to note that our city manager, Matthew Chittister, is on Zoom. Matthew, are you there? Would you like to fill in any data?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor. Certainly, I think probably a good place to start is for staff of the city to engage with Kishan and staff and start talking about what the best path forward is.
Yeah, well, I think this needs to go back to the Half Moon Bay City Council.
Yeah.
The one note that we had when we discussed it was that at the time, the JPA itself noted that the member agencies would get credit for contributions of property or infrastructure. And at the time the lease was signed, the building was already had started construction. So is that a contribution of property as part of the JPA? It's ambiguous, but there are also other examples of SAM infrastructure on property owned by the wastewater treatment plants on the Burnham Strip, property owned by GCSD. I think the Walker Tank is on property owned by Montera. So each of us sort of has one of those examples where we're hosting SAM infrastructure.
Yeah, I don't know how the accounting was done. I mean, that would be a forensic effort to go back and see if we can figure out where credit was given. I know in trying to unwind for a JPA in Southern California, undertaking that effort as to who contributed what real estate was a major undertaking. And the records weren't always as good as they should have been. So it may be possible, but it'll be some work. The discussion between the city and SAM should be a good start. One thing that I noticed, and I think maybe some others may have noticed as well, is that the agreement from 82 was recorded in 2009. I don't know why it was recorded in 2009. I don't have any contemporaneous documents that tell me that. It does seem odd that, in 1985 was the last records we really have of how we got here. But for some reason, quite a few years later, somebody made the decision to record the agreement. So there may be additional information from that time frame that would be helpful to us, but I haven't been able to find it.
It's a mystery.
Well, it seems like something we've got to get ironed out before we can make any major changes here. And I'd like to see us be able to get this electrical building problem taken care of as soon as possible. Because that's the big kahuna, and the solar is making more and more sense as gas is going up higher and higher.
I think the solar is the one that is the time constraint because of the credits. So I think I agree that the next conversation that needs to happen is between Half Moon Bay and Sam. Come back with some kind of proposal.
Can you provide some detail, maybe? Because I don't have it. Do you know exactly what the pertinent timeframes are? I know we've discussed it, but kind of when is go or no go on doing a power purchase agreement? Because I know we wanted to maybe have a public hearing at the next board meeting, but I don't know how long this is going to take, and I know we're kind of up against some deadlines.
Yeah, the deadline is the sooner we give it to the vendor, it's better, because the deadline for tax credit is 4th of July or 5th of July. And the sooner we enter into a contract with the vendor, they are hopeful of getting things going and giving us the credit. So they already have some panels in place. So I am proposing to bring it to the board for approval on March 23rd. So the hearing is will be posted today for 2 weeks. And we've got all the revised numbers. We'll put together everything and give all the details to the board members along with the staff report.
Yeah, I don't think we can commit to that deadline to resolve this.
Sure.
Yeah, it'll be subject to, maybe we can do it subject to Half Moon Bay giving the easement, because if we consider that way, if we consider that easement is not there, then we need to stop all the projects from inside the
Yeah,
plant.
we'll discuss it.
Yeah, I'm just,
No, I understood.
Yeah.
It's odd, right?
correct, it's
Having
odd, exactly, doesn't it?
A document.
Correct, so we can always discuss it subject to some.
Well, one thing we could do, Director Ruddick, is we could have, so we need to get one of the steps before we can enter any kind of power purchase agreements. We have to have the public hearing, and you got to have 2 weeks notice, which we've talked about that last time when we tried to have a public hearing. And we wound up having to cancel the meeting, but what we can do is if in 2 weeks we have the public hearing noticed and we find that we need more time, we could just continue the public hearing. So, because we would have already complied with the notice requirements. So if 2 weeks comes and we're just not there, we can continue it to the next board meeting or to a special meeting.
Yeah, we'll consult with our city attorney too. Yeah.
Yeah, so is this something that legal counsel should be talking on the easement agreement rather
think
than
so,
the
yeah.
staff? I think
Absolutely.
this- Yeah, so Jeremy, it's more of a legal interaction with Half Moon Bay Legal.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is, but their legal is going to have direction as to what they want. So I would just say this, maybe maybe have your legal counsel reach out to me whenever, you think it's appropriate for us to have the discussion.
We can do that.
Well, and are you talking about all member agencies being parties to this, or just?
Or just Jeremy and
have-
Half Moon Bay Legal Counsel.
For the initial, but we would certainly share with legal counsels from the other member agencies, because obviously for this to be approved, everyone has to be on board with it. So I would envision it's going to have to happen fairly quickly. That's unfortunate, but that's why I brought up being able to continue the public hearing if we had to. But I would certainly include legal counsel from the districts as well, so that they're informed.
Yeah, I mean, the agreement was between the city and Sam.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah.
at that point, in reading the letter referenced in the agreement, which is attached to at the end of the JPA, it was actually an agreement between the city and Half Moon Bay and also CSSA.
Oh, but the grant of easement was done with 2 resolutions, one the city, one at Sam.
I understand, but it
Yeah.
references a letter.
Hmm.
And in it, it says in the JPA, as part of the record, this letter that's attached to the end of the JPA, which is section IV, and it references paragraph B5, and you go to the end and it's a letter. And this is what this letter predates this stuff, but it was all part of the negotiation group. So I think perhaps the thing that, well, no, never mind.
I'm interested in Sam and the city getting it sorted. And we've got,
Quickly,
and we've got a agreement and grant of easement where the date ran out, but all the concrete's in the ground, so
right?
we gotta sort it out. No matter, or any kind of federal grant funding, we gotta have that cleaned up, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'll commit to working as quickly as the city is prepared to have the discussion. So just keep me informed.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you, Jeremy.
All right, manager's report.
Yep, the detailed report will be in the second meeting of this month, but I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Harbor District for allowing the sewer force main contractor to utilize their property for staging during pot drilling and construction. In fact, the Harbor District has saved Sam a whole lot of money. It was going to cost about 130,000 for a 12-month period. And they were kind enough to give it to Sam at no cost fee. This was discussed at their board meeting, and the board decided to give a no cost fee for the entire duration of the project. So
Was the original 120,000, the original proposal with the Harbor District that they decided to waive, or was that?
the contractor contacted them, it was 10,000 per month approximately, so it's coming to 120, 130,000. But then the cost would have come on the SAM project. That's when they approached me, and I spoke to the general manager at Harbor District Indirect, and then we decided that we'll put forward.
That's
I
great.
gave them all the write-up, and I gave them all the background information, and that helped us. So
And I recused myself from that discussion. I had full faith in my fellow board members.
Yeah.
Recognizing that Sam is a critical part of the community, so.
yeah, but that was a good amount of money for us to on the project.
I think relevant to Ms. Perkins' comments, I think the fourth ask she had to make the duration as short as possible, only but necessary, and
Oh, yeah.
fully clean up after is certainly a extremely reasonable
Yeah, it
request.
would be, because there's be a long gap between potholing now. And
then
then
it'll all go
construction
away,
to come up
yeah.
in July, August, so anyway, it starts up, so.
Do we have a write-up that really describes when and where exactly it will be and what will be happening? Because I would like to see the public have that information.
Yeah, it's posted in the on our website. We have details about the project updates and everything. is there.
Agenda too.
Yeah, the ISMND, and I did let the people who were commenting on Nextdoor know, included the sites for the staging sites. And that was published in January, and it was socialized on Nextdoor and SM Daily Journal and all the places that local people go to get news. So it just,
I like that phrase, socialized.
it was socialized.
I think I'm going to use that. It covers a lot of territory.
Yeah, so detail is already there in the outreach, as outreach in the on the website. We posted all that thing. Plus, we're gonna have a huge board giving all those details.
Oh, good.
So,
I think people were it's an area that there's a lot of sensitivity about. You know, they put a lot of energy into their previous interactions on that property, and they were surprised by this.
Yeah,
And I just didn't.
there's gonna be a big board giving all the details and all.
Okay,
They actually have that ready.
great. I will check that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
One person did say, if it's for sewers, then it's okay.
Yeah. Try and do it without sewer. Try and live here without sewers.
And who uses the sewer system?
Yes.
Attorney's report. Jeremy?
Yep, I think I've said enough tonight. I'll give you a report next meeting.
Okay, director's report.
Just that's Wanda Bowles will be sitting in for me next meeting on the 23rd. Because I will still be out of the country, and Director Dye will sub for me at the Finance Committee on the 19th.
And topics for future board consideration. We've got one for future financial committee operate.
Yeah, that's for finance committee, yeah.
Yeah,
And I think we should also bring on the operations committee, I think we should have one on what we could possibly do with the Lanstra, Dykstra, anyway, property. I want to know, maybe we can use it for vehicle parking along the edge. Maybe we can make a 20-foot wide garage there that won't harm the plants or the environmental part.
restoring the trucks, you mean?
Yes, and equipment. And so I'd like to see that for an operations committee, and
Might need a flags in the ground, wetland delineation for that.
it might well be. It's better to do it while it's not raining.
Might already have some of that.
It's old now.
Well, that's true. That's true. But we at least have an idea where to start.
And it has already, to those who are listening, it has already proven very useful because our concern at the time of purchase was that it could be, with the wrong city council purchased and put in apartment buildings. And, you never know how political.
We need a whole different community.
Well, the idea was we wanted to make sure that already having the neighborhood so close to the plant, nothing wrong with having a neighborhood, but it gets too close and start to get even odors to be a problem, right? So let's not have that problem again.
And remember, we just talked about the Burnham Strip and the issue of staging for a short-term capital project. So, yeah,
Exactly.
only it would be Jimmy here instead of the other one who was here before.
Yes. Okay, and do we have closed session?
We do not.
All right,
We didn't
Let's
listen. We're definitely not having one.
let's definitely adjourn now.
Okay,
Okay.
Meeting-
thank you, everyone.
Thanks for your